The industry definitely pushes, innovation for sure, right? We've been doing that for such a long time. But I think pet parents also push that innovation as well, really asking questions to pet product manufacturers. It would be great if this had this.
Hello, and welcome to the Pet Food Science Podcast brought to you by Wise Genetics. I'm Jan Sogodolski, a professor here at Texas A&M University, and I'm dedicated to bring you the latest insights and discussions in the pet food science industry. So get ready to expand your knowledge and stay ahead with today's episodes. And I really want to welcome today's guest, Nancy Hassel, who is the founder and president of the American Pet Professionals, an award-winning business networking, educational, and multimedia organization for the pet industry since 2009. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So Nancy, usually what I like to do is maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, about where you started, how your career path went, and what's more about the American Pet Professionals.
Sure. I mean, it's a long and windy road to owning your own business, right, when you first start out. But I actually started in television production. That's what I went to college for communications, and loved it and did that for over a decade. And then unfortunately 9/11 happened, and a few months later we all lost our jobs. And at that point I had 2 dogs, was kind of like, well, I don't really want to travel as much as I was traveling, and I didn't want to do the 16-hour shoot days, all of that, as much as I loved it, and took a few other jobs. And then I started working really in the pet industry over 20 years ago. Our business has been in business for over 16 years, but I started over 20 years ago. And I always like to say I always had one foot in the pet industry, reading all the trade magazines since my mid-20s and, dabbling in different areas, figuring out what my path was going to be. I worked in public relations for a few years, and at a trade show company for a few years. And then I just started going full time in the pet industry, and I was at an event and I was like, I think I can host an event like this for the pet industry. That was back in February of 2009. And the rest is history. People were like, when is the next event? How do we join your organization? So it was a lot of like, next month, not knowing what we were doing, and then moving on from there. There was no format or platform or anything like that back in 2009 to host something like we were doing. And it's been a wild ride along the way, but a lot of fun, a lot of amazing people in this industry.
So what kind of networking events do you organizing? So what is the formats? Who are the people to attend?
Yeah, so we have been organizing networking events, like I said, since the beginning. We did a lot of in-person events all across Long Island, New York City. We've hosted events in Chicago, Boston, Washington, D.C., a few other places. I'm in New York, so a few other places out of state, New York City. I also was a co-host of a show that we organized, NYC Retails and Sales Pet Expo, which was a boutique trade show, so we did that. But primarily the goal has always been to help not only unite pet professionals, whether you're brand new in the industry or you've been in the industry for 30 years, but we host monthly networking events. We have webinars and special guests, and then we have a mastermind every month. And I also do a live Q&A for our members to keep them updated with what's going on in the industry and what we have coming up. So that happens every single month. I only get a break in December where we host just one event that month. So we do a lot of different things. We always look at what's trending in and out of the industry, what's going to affect our pet professionals, because we have members from all areas of the pet industry. It's not just like dog trainers or pet product. We have everybody. So we try to make sure that all of our education is overarching and that everybody can benefit from it.
When you mean everybody, what's from left to right? Just give me a few examples.
Everybody is, if you're a veterinarian, whether you're a veterinarian, a pet sitter, a dog trainer, you have a product that you're inventing, maybe you're a B2B in the pet industry service provider. So we always ask our members, what do they need help? What areas do they need help in? What do they need to learn about? Plus, I'm also just bringing stuff to them when I'm like, you need to learn this. Like when AI was happening a few years ago, in November 2022, I was like, there's no way this is not plagiarized, because I've been writing since like 2007. And so I went down that rabbit hole to learn all about AI. And then I said, well, we've actually been using AI for quite a long time, but just, not in the same way, right? And so I posted a webinar for our members on how to use AI and how to use it ethically and how it can help their business. And that was in January of 2023, where, I was making sure that they knew and they had the tools that they could go from there. And I kind of do that with anything that I see that could help their businesses, that is trending. We were talking about TikTok before anybody was talking about it and everybody was still scared of it. So, those kind of things, like anything that really can help our members.
So it's all about networking, right?
Yeah, a lot of networking. Yep.
Okay, great. So since you have spent so much time in this area, pet industry, what are the trends when you compare the last 15 years? How are the trends changing? Where we started, where we're going now?
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see the trends over the last 15 years. You used to see a lot less like pet retail stores 15 years ago, right? There was less mom and pop stores, and that's been up and down over the years. But I feel like there's more of those in a regular area. I think back when I was a kid, there was like one pet store in like a 50-mile radius. There was really not many places to get the needs and the care that you need for your pet, whether it's a groomer, a doggy daycare, all of those type of stores. So that has grown a lot. Of course, technology, right? We all see it every day, and ways to make our lives and our pets' lives easier. So you see newer products, more technically advanced products, stuff that you would have never thought of, 15 years ago would be possible. I always joke and say, until a dog can go into a pet store with a little like credit card scanning device on their collar, I'm sure it's coming. And whoever invents that, please give me some credit, because I've been saying that for years. Like we are catering to the pet parents, right? But really, the trends have been pretty interesting. And now, of course, we all have noticed cats, right? The cat trend has been happening. I feel like that's been happening for quite a long time in the pet industry, but it's really getting more notification and more mainstream notoriety from the media and everything else. There's more cat dads, there's more cat stores. One of our members has her own all cat stores, just cats. So that's quite interesting to watch as well.
And do you think the pet parents are receptive? So that who is driving it? Is it the pet parent expectation? Is it industry? Is it a combination of both?
Yeah, I think the younger and more educated pet parent that there are definitely driving more industry, not just information education, but a lot of those pet parents have decided to take the step into the pet industry. We saw that during the pandemic, where a year later, all these new inventions, the story was very similar. In like 2022, as you were meeting new pet pros, they were like, I have a pet as a first time dog owner. I got a pandemic puppy or whatever it was. I adopted a dog. And now I came up with this great product idea. So some of it is coming from their own, thoughts and where they are looking for products to fill a void or make a product that they think is better than the products that are out there. So I think it's both. I think the industry definitely pushes, innovation for sure, right? We've been doing that for such a long time. But I think pet parents also push that innovation as well, really asking questions to pet product manufacturers. It would be great if this had this,
So how do you feel, where do they choose the pet parents? Where do they choose all the information for their food and supplements? What is the primary source?
I mean, that could be a tough question, right? Because I feel like pet parents can be overwhelmed with all of the information that is out there. You see a question in any like pet parent group online and it'll say, I have a new puppy. What food are you feeding? And then the gamut of what everybody suggests. I think, the first place a pet parent can really go to, besides their veterinarian, asking questions to their vet when they're looking for food and supplements, try to look for a really good store that has, an all natural type of thing, if that's what you're looking for, or a store that has pet supplies with a very knowledgeable staff. And of course, some store owners do it better than others, but that's where you're going to get a lot of information and find information and be able to purchase your products right there and try things out. Sometimes this store will have samples, those kind of things from the manufacturer. So I would go into the store. I know we do a lot of online shopping, but you're not going to get that education from clicking on an online shopping necessarily like you would in store.
One thing that, since it's all net, so you're experts in networking, so what are some common questions or even concerns you hear from both sides, and how can we bridge that?
Yeah, well, so right now for pet professionals, right, we see a lot of concerns. Of course, the industry is always growing, right? Has never slowed down, not since I've been in it, which is a good thing. But there's always common questions from our pet professionals or comments about, certain areas of the business being slower. Some of our members have been concerned with tariffs, worrying about if that will affect their products or the products that they sell in store. So far, we haven't seen too much of a huge influx of that. I've asked every single time we have networking, I'm like, anybody affected by this, and this, just to get feedback. Or when I'm in a member store or talking to a manufacturer, I ask those questions as well. Along the way, some of the struggle for retail stores was pet parents coming in, finding what they need, getting the information, and then shopping online for it, instead of purchasing and supporting your community store. And that was going on for a while. Now, some of those concerns are direct to customer, right? It's not necessarily the big online giant that's selling stuff, but direct to customers. And I feel like a lot of our manufacturers have a better success rate sometimes with direct to customers. So it's interesting to hear all the different comments from them. For pet parents, again, I would just say I think a lot of the information out there can be overwhelming and confusing. If you're a pet professional, host a webinar, host something for pet parents, host educational information. If you have a product, and let them know what it is. If you're a pet store owner, have experts come into your store and host something so that you're educating the pet parents, because that will bring them back for more information.
That brings us to education, right? So how do you think pet parents understand at the moment the value of nutrition? Is it something that I think they are well informed?
Yeah, I think definitely compared to like 5 or 10 years ago, pet parents are definitely more well informed with food. And again, it depends on what they want to feed. If they're doing a fresh type of food, if they're doing raw, if they're doing kibble. I feel like they do a lot more research and try to find out those things ahead of time. Some of it is a process. You might have a dog that has a food allergy, and maybe you never heard of a pet having food allergy, and that's the journey and what you're going to learn, right? Even though the information is out there, if they never had a pet before, they weren't paying attention to that. I always tell our pet professionals, our business owners, we're in it like 24/7. We're so focused on it, and pet parents aren't as focused on that as much. So you are the first step for providing that information. Another thing they can do when they're looking for supplements, one of the things I love to do, and I've talked about this for a long time, is when I'm picking out supplements, look for the NASC seal, which is the National Animal Supplement Council. They go through a rigorous process to get that seal on there. It's a very high standard of auditing for the ingredients. So there's a lot more seals on there on products, which is really fantastic to see, especially since supplements are one of the highest selling, products right now in the pet world, but there are a lot of them out there. So look for that. You also may go through a few to figure out which one works best for your pet.
So obviously, okay, the seal is a great example. Are there other things that professionals or other companies or pet food industry or even professionals can really encourage better communication of those concerns or education?
As far as ingredients or just product in general?
Products in general, and then maybe we'll go a little bit into the supplements afterwards.
Yeah, I think, as a pet professional, education is a huge part of teaching pet parents how to use your product, right? And that also trickles down to whether you're selling it online, selling it on your website. Is there a video? Is there a blog? Is there all the elements for somebody to learn how to use a product, whether they're buying a harness from you, a collar, or supplements? I feel like they need the education, and it should be front and center on your website. This way they can click on a video and learn about it. This is how you use it. If it's a fitting for a harness, it should be a video, tutorial, blog post, something that's sold with the harness on how to fit it, like all of the things. Because like I said before, we're so in it and paying attention. And a lot of times as a pet business owner, you're too close to the product. You're not necessarily thinking about it from a pet parent's point of view, right? They might think, oh, this is the right size collar, or this is the right size harness, and it's completely the wrong size, or they don't know how to adjust it properly. So it really, the burden is on the pet product manufacturer, I believe, to get that education across in multiple ways.
So how does it feel afterwards with influencers and so on? Is this a market that is growing? because that they can afterwards influencers, for example.
Yeah, I think, influencers have been around for a long time. I feel like there's definitely not going anywhere. You'll hear that up and down. Some people say, oh, influencers are not going to be around. I think there'll always be an influencer around, regardless if you're on social media, maybe you are blogging and influencing people. It's been around for a long time. It's just in different mediums now. But I think that, influencers can be great if they are educated in the pet products, right? They might just like something and hope to get, maybe a brand deal, and they're sharing the info. And there's nothing wrong with that if they really love the product. But are they the veterinarian, the pet store owner, the pet professional that really knows, the product and the industry well? So, there are some influencers that do a fantastic job, right? And some pet retail store influencers that do such a fantastic job providing education and information that I love to see. And that has been growing for years.
As a veterinarian, I want to come back a little bit to the education part, so how can a busy veterinarian, and they're very busy,
Yeah.
what would be low-hanging fruits to really educate owners better, in a broader term, especially for diets, nutrition, and supplements? Because often in a consult, it's very short, right? They don't have much time.
Yeah. Again, I know the veterinarians are so busy, right? It's you're going from one patient to the next, to the next, to the next. There's barely any time. I know my vet will call me at like 8:30 at night with the results from a test of my dog. And I'm like, are you going home yet? Like, it's kind of crazy, right? There's no slowdown. But to get that education, it depends if you're a smaller practice, a bigger practice, if you have the bandwidth that you can host an event, even if it's once a year on education. I used to host a responsible dog ownership class, and we had volunteer veterinarians in the class talking about all the things that pet parents and new dog owners need to know, whether it was about vaccines, whether it was about, any health question that our students had in the class. And I was adamant about having veterinarians in there because I have my own feelings, but I am not a veterinarian. So I'm not going to tell you what I think you should ask your vet. And I'll always go back to a pet parent. That's a great question. That's more aimed for your veterinarian. So I think if you could provide, even do it on a video format. A lot of people like to read blogs. If you can host one event a year on, new puppy 101 or whatever it is, that kind of thing, I think it really helps connect with the pet parents better, because there's a lot of information that pet parents just don't know, right? And even as well informed as we are in the pet industry, there's still things that we don't know, or veterinarians might not know of something that another veterinarian knows, depending on their specialty. So it's a lot of information to take.
How do you think is there a chance for industry? Let's come, for example, like, foods industry or some other ones partner with veterinarians to host such events? What is the opportunity there?
Well, I think they already do that, right? Isn't that part of what some of the foods already do with veterinarians?
But they focus mostly on the veterinarians themselves, but could be something, an outreach that also would reach the owner more in detail in partnership with veterinarians.
Yeah, I think it can definitely be done as long as it's done in a way that they're educating the pet parent on the different formats of food. Because some people are going to be, I only want to feed raw, or I only want to do home cooked, or I only want to do, and some people are going to be like, I just want the best kibble. I don't have time for all of that. So I think if you did a well-rounded an event like that with a veterinarian, I think would be at a clinic, at a hospital with a pet nutritionist that is certified in pet nutrition. There's so many variables that you can do that. I think it would be a great thing.
Maybe a very question about education. One more last one is, what do you think the trend is nowadays, the pet parents? Who is the first choice of really, getting information? Is it the internet? Is it the veterinarian still? What is the trend nowadays?
I think they probably just go to the internet, right? That's probably the first choice. You go either down now ChatGPT. A lot of people do that, right? They'll ask chat questions, or they'll go onto the websites and ask those questions. I think there's a lot of great information out there. Sometimes they'll ask in different groups on social media, forums, stuff like that. And then they may ask at their vet. They may go more informed and ask at their vet. And sometimes they don't have that time if it's an emergency type of thing, and they're at the vet asking a million questions. So, but I would say probably online.
It's time for our famous three. For more than 20 years, BioOrigin manufactures high-quality yeast-based ingredients through a sustainable biotechnological process, guaranteeing full traceability from the crop to the bowl. Through Through specialization in the fermentation process, BioOrigin brings the right solution for specific nutritional, palatability, and health appeals, such as gut health, immune system, skin health, weight control, and more. BioOrigin's products are natural origin, non-GMO, and certified sustainable by Bonsucro. BioOrigin is your partner for high-quality, yeast-based ingredients to add value to pet foods worldwide. Learn more at bioorigin.net.
We come close to the end of our episode. I have a few questions about yourself or your background a little bit. So you mentioned before you found the Responsible Dog Ownership Program. What is that? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. So that was a class that it was kind of a reaction to, I have owned Doberman and I have my pit bull in the background there, and I have a pit bull now. And there was just like some law that was trying to be enacted, and it was against a breed. And I'm in New York, so there's no breed specific legislation, and it's gotten a lot better. But I was like, instead of putting another law out there, why don't they actually just host an educational class? And my friend who worked for a local town, she said, why don't you do it? And I was like, what? Not me. So that kind of was my foray into educating. And I put together this program, and it was no dogs in the class, and was myself talking about the laws and like basic information and dog park etiquette and understanding dog body language to a point, or human body language if they're crossing the street with their dog. Maybe they're trying to get away from you and your dog, like commonsensical things. But I also wanted to make sure we had veterinarians in the class. We had phenomenal dog trainers in the class, and we talked about everything. So we had a format. We went around the room, asked everybody what their questions were, and then we would go from there. Each class was 3 hours. In a few different towns. I hosted it for 5 years. We taught over 2,500 people. And I actually have a course now that we teach other people across the country, other pet professionals, if they want to enact that course, because I would love to see that everywhere, because then more people would have that information. So I was very passionate about hosting that.
And then also, final question, you have something about Pet Industry 101. That's an upcoming event. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So, Pet Industry 101, we own the trademark. And that's something, again, we have a lot of newer pet professionals that come to us. I'm always getting a lot of the same questions. So we've hosted a few events here and there over the years, probably since 2018. And I just decided, let's have a webinar on all of those pet professionals that are super green, excited about being in the industry, whether you're a year under in business or you're just dreaming about being in the pet industry. We'll give you some of the tools and trades and answer questions for you to help you along the way, because it's kind of a lot of what we do at American Pet Professionals, but not all of our members are brand new. Some of them are, but we do get a lot of people that are just entering the industry, very wide-eyed, going to the shows and not sure what the next thing to do is. And my main goal is to help teach them so that they don't, have any pitfalls and they don't fall into the wrong things and see the shiny object syndrome, or see somebody telling them, you're going to get this, and knowing all full well that's not going to happen. So it's really to help, people that are thinking about joining the pet industry come into the industry with more information, armed with the start.
What is the expected growth of the pet industry? Do you have a feeling for that? What is it? How much is it going to grow over the next 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to slow down. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I feel like we've been saying the same thing for so many years. It's just been growing exponentially. I mean, when I started talking about, our business back in 2009, I would tell people it's a $40 billion a year industry. And now it's projected to be $157 billion. And that's just in the States. That's not worldwide, I don't think it's slowing down. I think people are just super passionate about pets. I think people that never thought they would have a pet are now the people that have pets and are the super passionate people about pets. I think it'll continue to innovate. And, I love to see things in 5 years. I like to say, we know so much about dogs, but I can't wait till 5 or 10 years from now when we see even more, and cats and all the things that we learn as an industry and as humans overall, looking at how amazing our pets are.
So we're almost at the end. I'm just ask you one more question. It's more like a broader question. What is your favorite book or resource that kind of in your industry that you would recommend, or that is your favorite one that you would recommend?
So as far as, within the industry, I would say if you're not reading Pet Age magazine and subscribing to the trades in your niche. Like there's a lot of grooming magazines and veterinarian magazines. I would say subscribe to them and read them and stay in touch. You can read some of the stuff online as well, but I think getting those magazines in your hands and really, flipping through and reading them is a good thing. As far as books, oh my gosh, there's so many great books out there for the pet industry. That would be hard to name just one because I don't want to pinpoint one person. But there's a lot of really great books, whether you're looking to learn about dog training or how to have a new career in certain areas. There's a lot of really fantastic books out there. For me, I like to listen to a lot of business podcasts that have nothing to do with the pet industry because I'm always paying attention business-wise what's going on. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Nancy. So that concludes another episode of the Pet Food Science Podcast presented to you by Wisenetics. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on future episodes. So until next time, my name is Jan Sugadolski from the Pet Food Science Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.